Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namassabhabhyas Sabhapatibhyascha Vo Namaha. Mata Mahamahashailam Mahastadapitamaham Karanam Jagatam Vande Kanthadu Parivaranam Vedandasyam Giram Devim Sadgurof Padapankajam Jagadgurunshcha Shangadrasthitan Vande Arthasiddhaye Mala Sudha Kumbhavi Bodha Mudra Vidya Virajat Karavari Jatam Aparakarunya Sudhamburashim Shri Sharadambam Pranatosmi Nityam Satyajnana Sukhasvarupamamalam Kshirabdhi Madhyasthitam Yogarudhamati Prasanna Vadanam Bhusha Sahasrojvalam Triaksham Chakra Pinaka Sabhayavaran Bibhranamarkachavim Chhatri Bhota Phanindra Mindudhavalam Lakshmin Nrisimham Bhaje Giran Devi Vani Vimala Gunino Me Chapitaro Guruttam Saha Malla Pragada Kulabhusha Manibudha Kutumbakya Shastri Rasika Hridaya Ye Sahridaya Nijashirbhir Kuryas Saphala Vachasam Mam Karunaya Bharati Karunapatram Bharati Padabhushanam Bharati Padamarudham Bharati Tirthamashraye Bhaje Shri Bharati Tirthakarambuja Samudbhavam Vidhuchodarchana Saktam Vidhushekhara Bharatim Paraspara Tapassam Patphalayita Parasparo Prapanjamata Pitaro Prancho Jaya Patistumaha Sinduraruna Vigraham Trinayanam Manikya Spurattara Nayaka Shekharam Smitamukhim Apena Vakshoruham Panibhyamalipurna Ratnachashakam Raktotpalam Bibhratim Saumyam Ratnaghatastha Raktacharanam Dhyayet Paramambikam Akrisham Kuchayoh Krisham Valagne Vipulam Chakshushi Vistrutan Nitambe Akrisham Krishayoh Krisham Valagne Vipulam Chakshushi Vistrutan Nitambe Adhare Runama Virastu Chitte Karunashali Kapali Bhagadheyam. With Namaskarams to everyone, and Namaskarams to Devi, and Namaskarams to the Jagat Gurus. Today we are talking about the second part of the topic that we had commenced last time by Shri Sannidhanam Varu's Agnya. So Lalita Sahasranama Brahmavidya. So as we spoke last time, we spoke about the Shed Darshanas and how they integrate with each other. We spoke about the relationship between Adhyatma Sadhana, between Vedanta and Tantra, between Vedanta and Devatopasana, between Tantra and a like Shaiva, Vaishnava, Shakta traditions. And in continuation of that, we will explore more of how these themes are brought out within Lalita Sahasranama. But before that, I would like to talk about a shloka that I just told in the dhyana, because it is a very beautiful one. So in doing the Mangalacharana for Kuvalayananda, which is one of Appaya Dikshitendra's granthas on Alankara Shastra, in the process of doing namaskara to his Ishtadevatas, he first does namaskaran to Gauri. Amari Kabari Bhara Brahmari Mukhari Kritan Duri Karotu Duritam Gauri Charana Pankajam. And then he does namaskara to Devi as well as Shiva, because as we talked about last time, Samayachara is a very important concept in Sri Vidya. Samam eti, to reach both Devi and Shiva equally together, to worship both of them together, to worship both of them as united with each other. Why, we will see later on today. But the way he describes it is Paraspara Tapassampat Phalayita Parasparo. So, Devi and Shiva are the Paraspara Phalas of Paraspara Tapas. What does this mean? So, Shiva is the fruit of Devi's tapas, and Devi is the fruit of Shiva's tapas. This is a very beautiful concept. For those of you who have read Kumara Sambhava, who actually ends up doing tapas for the other one first? We are all very, very familiar with the fact that Parvati did tapas to become Shiva's wife. And that's why she got the name Aparna, because she did not even eat parnas, she did not even eat leaves. But if we actually look at the storyline, it is actually Shiva that does tapas for Parvati first. As Kalidasa describes the way that Shiva came to Kailasa, he says, Tatragnimadhaya samit samidham swameva murtyantaram ashtamurtihi Swayam vidhata tapasaf phalanam kenapi kamena tapaschakara is what Kalidasa says there. So although Shiva is Swayam vidhata tapasaf phalanam, although Shiva himself is the giver of the tapaf phala, he's the one that grants boons and other people do tapas for him. So he is the giver of the fruits of other people's penance. So although he himself gives the reward for tapas, kenapi kamena tapaschakara, with some indescribable goal in mind, he himself started doing tapas. The hint being that he is doing tapas in order to get Devi as his wife. And of course Devi is also doing tapas to get Shiva as her husband. So in this way, they are paraspara tapas sampat phalayita parasparo. But were they not together before? No. Prapancha mata pitaro, regardless of in their leelas, in their leelavataras, regardless of whether they might have been separated, coming back together, getting married, remarried, whatever might have happened, they're prapancha mata pitaro. They are the progenitors of this world, of this cosmos. So they existed before this entire prapancha came into being, and therefore they're prancho jayapati, prak. They are the primordial wife and husband, the primordial father and mother, and we do namaskaram to them. So doing namaskaram to such Parashiva and Tripura Sundari. Before we start talking about specific names again, let us just once again remind ourselves of the way that Upasana and Devataradhana and Bhakti is supposed to interface with Vedanta sadhana. Because this is always it's a constant divide that we have. Bhakti, Devataradhana, Upasana, these things all exist in the realm of Dvaita. Because there is a quite evident difference between the Jiva, the limited, not all-knowing, individual who is bound by time and space and his mind and his inhibitions and whatnot, and between him and the entity that he is worshipping, which is time, which is Sarvajna, Sarvashaktimata, the creator of the three worlds, infinitely powered, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. There is quite a large gap and quite a bit of difference between these two entities. So although this aradhana happens at the dual level, we are told that the end goal of this is jnana, which ends up being single pointed, in which there is no duality, in which there is only one entity, in which there is no space for any difference of quality. So the question becomes, how do we reconcile these two? And the nice thing is we do not have to look outside Lalita Sahasranama. So there are these two names that we see. One is Bhaktigamya and the other is Niradhara. So these two names, in doing the Vyakhya for these two names, as in the last session we will focus on the Bhaskara Raya Vyakhya and the Sobhagya Bhaskara Vyakhya as was told by Sannidhanam Mara. So Bhaktigamya is one of the first names that we can see that relates to this. And there is a sequence in the Brahma Sutra that Bhaskara Raya quotes here. So right away we can see Brahma Sutra is pure Vedanta, Lalita Sahasranama is from Tantra. So these two already are in confluence. Api Samradhane Pratyakshanamana is this one sequence within the Brahma Sutras where it talks about the fact that Samradhana or Aradhana of Bhagavan, of this Brahman, of Ishvara, is a way to attain that Brahman by means of and this is proved by Pratyaksha and Anumana. So we don't have to go into that. But the fact remains that within Vedanta Shastra itself, and that too within the Brahma Sutra tradition itself, we have stark confirmation, we have evident confirmation that Sagunopasana is very much a necessary part of this Brahmavidya. And to go into other darshanas as well, within Yoga Shastra, so for the yogi, the goal is Samadhi, which in a way corresponds to the Vedantin's moksha. There is another sutra where they talk about pranava, tasya vachakah pranavaha. So they say, klesha karma vipakayir, there is Ishvara who is untouched by the workings of karma and the impurities of the mind. And tasya vachakah pranavaha, the symbol that denotes him, the word that denotes him is pranava, omkara. And how do you know this omkara or its vachya, who is Ishvara? Ishvara pranidhanadva. You abhyasa vairagya abhyantan nirodha. So you have these whole sequences of what all you can do to the mind, and then you also have Ishvara pranidhanadva, and also by meditating upon Ishvara, by doing dhyana of Ishvara. And then you get the question. So of course again you have Ishvara is of two forms. You have Nirguneshvara and Saguneshvara. So of these, which Aradhana is to be done? Because there are stotras and Aradhana vidhanas of both. So actually Bhagavatpada himself, his Manasa Puja for Shiva is very famous. Ratnaih kalpitam asanam himajalam snanam cha divyambaram nana rattam vibhushanam Brahmadalam. All of that is a very famous stotra where the bhakta is envisioning Shiva seated on a Ratna Simhasana, upon whom he is pouring Ganga Jala, for whom he's giving abharanas, for whom he is giving Naivedya. So Bhagavatpada has written this Aradhana Vidhana that is very obviously Saguna. But on the flip side, Bhagavatpada himself has also written a Nirguna Manasa Puja, where the Shishya goes and says, how do you do Avahana of someone who is present everywhere? How do you give asana for someone whose asana is the three worlds? How do you do snana for him who is already pure? How do you give arghya to one whom you cannot see? The Shishya comes and asks all this, and the teacher then gives the Nirguna Vidhana of interpreting this Shodashopachara Puja that we usually do. So this Nirgunopasana is also there, Sagunopasana is also there, and we are told to do Aradhana of Ishvara. So which is to be done? The answer is both can be done. And this is told in the Bhashya of the name Niradhara. So as we said, there is a sequence of names where there is just the prefix Nir, without. So Nir Adhara, one that is without support. So obviously one meaning being that because Devi is the support of the three worlds, she herself needs no other support. So this is a very straightforward meaning. But then Bhaskara Raya also says that Niradhara, because her Upasana can be Niradhara, and her Upasana can also be Sadhara. So Adhara is what, as we just said, Adhara is a base, a substratum, a foundation. So Niradhara Upasana is Upasana that is done without a solid foundation. So what is Upasana? Keeping asana, Upa-asana, keeping in the presence of, keeping in the vicinity of, keeping near to, keeping what? Keeping the mind close to Bhagavan, keeping the mind close to Ishvara, keeping the mind close to Brahman. So when you make it Niradhara, it means that the mind has no support to latch onto. So the mind needs a name or a form or some story or some Rupa Rasa Gandha or some thought to latch onto. So Niradhara Upasana is the Upasana in which the mind has no name or form to latch onto. So Nirguna Upasana. And then he also says that there is also Sadhara Upasana, which is Saguna Upasana, where the mind does have an Adhara. The mind does have something to think about. The mind does have something to visualize. The mind does have something to fix itself on. And then now we can say, okay, good. So we know that Ishvara is Saguna and we can also worship him in the Saguna form. But what is the nature of this Ishvara when he becomes Saguna? Because there are plenty of qualities in this world. And if we say that Ishvara became this entire world, then you have the Satyatyatcha Bhavata, Niruktancha, Aniruktancha, Nityancha, Nityancha, Satyancha, Anrutancha, Satyam Bhavata. So all the dualities of Ishvara himself. So do you worship all gunas? How does that become conducive to worship? So then again we can go back to Lalitha Sahasranama. And who is worshipped in Sadhara Upasana? You have the word Bhagamalini, Bhairavi Bhagamalini. Put Bhairavi aside. But Bhagamalini, one who has a Bhagamala, Bhagamala Asyaha Asti iti Bhagamalini. One who has a Bhagamala is Bhagamalini. So what is Bhaga? A mala that is Bhaga is Bhagamala. What is Bhaga? So there are two definitions given in Shastra. One is Aishwaryasya Samagrasya Viryasya Yashasa Shriyaha Jnana Vairagyayoshyaiva Shannam Bhaga Itingana. So there is one denotation called Bhaga, which is given to a set of 6 qualities. So Aishwaryasya Samagrasya, complete Aishwarya, Virya, Yashas, Shri, Jnana, Vairagya. So Aishwarya, Yashas, Virya, Aishwaryasya Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashasa, Shriya, Jnana, Vairagya. These six qualities together are called Bhaga. Aishwarya is command, lordship, Ishwaratva, being able to do shasana, being able to command beings. Aishwaryasya Samagrasya, but not the Aishwarya that a local leader would have or that a human would have. Samagra Aishwarya. Aishwarya upon or Adhipatya over everything that exists. And then Virya. Virya is potency, strength, capability, Dakshyam, Samarthata. And then Yashas, fame, Shri, which is Shobha. And then Jnana and Vairagya. So knowing everything but being dispassionate towards everything. So one who has the set of these 6 qualities are Bhaga, and one for whom these 6 qualities are as a garland is Bhagamalini. So already we have a Sarvashaktimati, Sarva Viryavati, Sarvagnya. So all of these qualities are qualities that are worshipped in Saguneshwara. There is also another shloka, Utpattim Pralayancheva, Bhutanam Agatim Gatim Vetti Vidyam Avidyancha Savachyo Bhagavaniti. This is also another shloka that is found in the Puranas. So one who knows Utpattim Pralayancheva, one who knows Srishti and Laya, Bhutanam Agatim Gatim, one who knows from where bhutas, jivas, beings come from and also go away. Vetti Vidyam Avidyancha, one who is aware of both Jnana and Ajnana. Savachya Bhagavaniti. He is called Bhagavan. He is called as possessing Bhaga. And one who has those qualities is Bhagamalini. So even if we look at this definition, you have Utpattim Pralayan Chaiva, one who knows Srishti and Laya. How will one know Srishti and Laya? Only one who is present throughout it will know Utpatti and Laya. So one who is present before Srishti and one who is present after the end of Laya will know what happened during Utpatti and during Pralaya. People like us who go just in the beginning of Pralaya will not know the whole process. So if we are saying that this Ishvara knows Utpatti and Pralaya, we are taking him to be a Nitya Padartha that existed before and after the Prapancha. In the same way, when we say Bhutanam Agatim Gatim, they know this Ishvara knows where bhutas come from and where they go back into. This is a nod to Samasta Phalabhoga Nibandhanaya Karturajñaya Prapyate Phalam. This is a nod to the fact that Ishvara knows and dispenses the karma phalas of all bhutas. So Ishvara knows the karma phalas of all bhutas and works the world in such a way that these karma phalas balance out. You will see more about this later in Maheshwara Mahakalpa Mahatandava Sakshini. We will see that when we talk about that name later. But in this you can see that as we do this Ishvara Radhana, we are ascribing qualities to Ishvara that very much merge with the Nirguna standpoint of things. So this Ishvara now has several forms. We do not just limit it to a male or a female or a humanoid form even, but we worship it as Devi, as Ganesha, as Shiva, as Vishnu, as a Salagrama, as a Bilva Vriksha, as a Go, as an elephant's Kumbhasthala, as a Ashwatha Vriksha. The beauty of Sanatana Dharma is it does not say that God is only humanoid. We worship God in mountains, rivers, animals, trees, chemicals. We have forms of Ishvara. Forget about seeing Ishvara everywhere. Aradhana of Ishvara is done in various forms. Cows and elephants and horses, Gaja Puja, Ashwa Puja, Go Puja is done. You worship Tulasi Vriksha, Ashwatha Vriksha. The worship of trees is done. We worship the Himalayas as Astitrasya Anishi Devatatma. We worship the Himalayas and Meru Parvata and such mountains as Bhagavan. Ganga, Godavari, Narmada, these are all Devatas, Nadis, water. Birds, the eagle is worshipped, the peacock is worshipped, snakes are worshipped. So in no other tradition in this world will you find a place where God is worshipped in a form other than a humanoid form. We do not say that Bhagavan's form is limited to a form like us. We do not make God in our own image. We see God in every image. That is the better way of looking at it. So because Ishvara takes so many forms that are conducive to Upasana, the rishis of yore, the sadhakas of the past, the jnanis, the mahatmas who have given us these sampradayas, have designated certain forms that are very conducive and have built up a sampradaya around those, have given us the mantras that represent those devatas, and these are what we call vidyas. So as we know, this Lalita Sahasranama this Lalita Sahasranama is a representation of what we call Shri Vidya, which is the third of the Dashamaha Vidyas. So actually, in the Dashamaha Vidyas, each Vidya is mapped out to a different Vidya in the Upanishads. So in the Upanishads, so in the Vedanta Sampradaya, Vidya refers to a method of Brahmopasana. So Vidya is not just used to mean Jnana, but different Vidyas mean different forms of Brahmopasanas. And the Upasanas given in the Upanishads are somewhat different from the Upasanas of Devatas that we are used to today. So for example, there is Antarakshi Vidya, wherein you meditate upon a golden figure within the pupil of the eye. There is Antaraditya Upasana, where you meditate upon a golden figure within the middle of the Surya Bimba, within the Surya Mandala. There is Udgitha Upasana, where you do Upasana of Omkara. So in this way, there are several Vidyas in this, and In fact, Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni, the great Upasaka who lived in Arunachala along with Ramana Maharshi, he maps out each, I guess he did it, but it was also there in Tantra. He wrote it very clearly. He also described how each of these different versions of Devi, these different angles of Devi, these different lenses of Devi, all correspond to different upasanas given in the Upanishad. So, for example, it says that Kali is Samargopasana, Bhuvaneshwari is Parovariyasya Upasana. In the same way, Tara is Akshara Vidya. So, there he maps these out to different ways. He says that Shri Vidya corresponds to Vaishvanara Vidya. Vaishvanara Vidya is a very interesting one. So, these 6 Brahmanas, Mumukshus, these 6 Jignasus. So, 6 Brahmanas who want to know Brahman go to a Kshatriya and ask him to teach them about Brahman. And the Kshatriya, that Raja, that king, first asks them what each of them thinks Atma is. So one of them says that Divam, the heavenly realms, the Akasha Bhaga is not Akasha. Divam is like Svarloka. The Svargaloka is Atman. Another one says that Aditya is Atma. Another one says that Vayu is Atma. Another one says that Akasha is Atma. Another one says that Apas, water, is Atma. Another one says that Prithvi is Atma. So the 6 of them give these 6 different answers. Dyu, Aditya, Vayu, Agni, Apaf, Prithvi. These 6. And then the Raja says, you all are only thinking about a part of the whole. I do not deny that these are all forms of Brahman or Atman or Ishvara. But these are all parts of the whole. But how is Ishvara present in all of these? That is where you get the name Vaishvanara Vidya from. Vishveshu Nareshu Vidyate iti Vaishvanaraha. One that exists in all beings is Vaishvanara. So then the Raja tells those Brahmanas that you all know a part of the whole. This Dyu that you are worshipping as Brahman is the head. Aditya is the eye. Vayu is the prana. Akasha is what he calls the Sandeha, so the torso. The Apas, the water, is the Basti. The Basti or Vasti is the bladder. And then Prithvi is the feet, the Adhara. So in this way he shows that Brahman is present in all of this cosmos, but the cosmos as a total will be the Akara of the Virat Purusha. So that is what we get Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasrabha. It corresponds very nicely with Purusha Sukta as well. So this is the Vidya that Kavyakantha Ganapati Muni said corresponded with Shri Vidya. And the Devata that is worshipped through Shri Vidya is called Tripura Sundari or just Sundari. Why is she called Sundari? Are the other forms of Devi not beautiful? Because there is also Tripura Bhairavi. Kamalatmika is a very beautiful Devata. Matangi is a very beautiful Devata. So why is this Devata in particular, why is this form of Upasana in particular called Sundari? So he says, Sarvotkrishta Prakashatvat. Right? We get the name Mahatripura Sundari in here. Sarvotkrishta Prakashatvat Sundari. That which shines surpassing all is Sundari. That which is the most beautiful, the most pleasing to look at. That which surpasses all is Sundara. Right? That which is beautiful is that which surpasses all else in its Shobha. So she is called Sundari because she shines surpassing all others. What is the thing that shines surpassing all others in Advaita, in Vedanta? There is only one thing that shines, and that is Chaitanya, Jnana, Chit. You can call it any one of these names. So, because she is the Chaitanya Sarupa, because she is Jnana Sarupa, she shines surpassing all else. Because Jada Padarthas do not shine. They do not have Svatobhana. They do not have Swatav Prakasha. They are not evident of their own will. They require a separate cognizer to be evident. So, whereas the cognizer himself, the Atman itself, needs no other cognizer to make it evident. No one needs to be taught that they exist. We are all aware of our own existence of our own accord. Svatas Siddha, intrinsically aware. We do not, of all other padarthas, we are extrinsically aware of them. Because we need to have an eye to see something, we need to have a tongue to taste something, we need to have an ear to hear something, we need to have a manas to think about something. So even when we perceive santosha or dukkha or sukha or krodha or dvesha, we still need a manas to perceive that. For all of these, we need some sadhana or the other for it to be perceived, because the thing that we are perceiving is jada. It does not have any swatav prakasha. Whereas the Atma, our existence, we do not need any external thing to perceive it. It is swatas siddha. So, because jnana is of that nature, and we worship Sundari as that jnana, as that chaitanya, as that chit. So we also have, of course, in Veda, right? Tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. And who is recommended to worship Devi in this form? So, for example, if you wish to get sampada, you worship Kamalatmika. If you wish to get Shakti, you worship Kali. If you wish to have a way with words, if you wish to gain control over Shabda, you worship Matangi or Tara. So in this way, different vidyas are taught to different vidyas are taught depending on the sadhaka as well. So who is the sadhaka who is recommended of worshipping Devi as Jnana, of worshipping Devi as Chaitanya? It is told that Mumukshukavaha Sundari Mupasita Sarvajñatva Kamova. So one who is a Mumukshu, one who wishes to get moksha, can do Upasana of Sundari, or one who wishes to become Sarvajña. Why is this? So obviously the Mukshutva part is easy, right? Because we just said that this Devi is Chaitanya and Brahman Swarupa is Satchidananda. So Chaitanya is Brahman, and if you know Chaitanya, you will know Brahman, thereby getting moksha. So this is one way of looking at it. But what about the Sarvajñatva Kamova? What about one who wishes to become a Sarvajña? Why is worship of this Devi recommended here? Because Devi is a Brahman. We have this one pratignya in Chandogya Hashtadhyaya, where Shvetaketu goes to his father. He's very proud of what he thinks he has learnt, and the father sees that his son is proud, and he goes, "Oh, have you learnt that too?" And the son says, "What is that?" And then Shvetaketu's father tells him, "Yena amatam bhavati, ashrutam shrutam bhavati, avijñatam vijñatam bhavati." Have you learnt that? Having known which, that which is not known becomes known, that which is not heard becomes heard, that which is not contemplated becomes contemplated. Have you known that? So what this is called in Shastra is Eka Vijñānena Sarva Vijñāna Pratigñā. So knowing one thing, you know everything. Why? Just as if you know Mrit, you know all forms of pots. Just as if you know gold, you know about all forms of ornaments. Just as if you know about threads, you know all forms of cloth. In the same way, if you know the Adhishthana, the Adhara, you will know about all the Vikaras or the Vivartas of that thing. So because it is that Chit or Chaitanya that is the Adhara of Sarva, of everything that exists, by knowing that one Chit or Chaitanya or Sat or Ananda or Brahman, you will know all, you will become a Sarvajña. And this also ties into the Samayopasana that we were talking about earlier. Because if we think about this, there will be a Jnata and a Jnana. There is a knower and knowing. So if we look at this in the root sense, Shiva is said to be the Jnata, Devi is said to be the Jnana. Jnana is one in Advaita. Jnana and Jnani or Jnata. The Jnata and the Jnana. The cognizer and the cognizance. The knower and knowing are one and the same. Well then what is the difference? The dharmi bheda, depending on how you are looking at it, is there. A very beautiful example that they give in Shastra is Raho Shiraha, the head of Rahu. So this is a very funny thing because Rahu is nothing but a head, right? So the story goes that, with Vishnu's chakra, the Rakshasa's head and body were split into two. The head became Rahu, the body became Ketu. So when you say Raho Shiraha or Rahu's head, if you say Rahu's head, is there something other than the head? If you're looking at it, the only difference is the lens that you look at it with. If you look at it as a head, this head belongs to Rahu. Or if you're looking at it as Rahu, it is Rahu. So Rahu Shirah, in the same way, just as one entity can have two different ways that you look at it, can have a possessor-possessive relationship even though there is only one thing there, right? Rahu is possessing the head, although Rahu is no different from the head. In the same way, when we do upasana of this jnana or this chaitanya, jnana and jnani, if you are taking the dharma, the nature of the thing, it is jnana, the knowing. If you are taking the dharmi, the possessor of that quality, it will be the jnata. But these two are actually not different, and that is why we have this other concept in Sri Vidya that we call prakasha and vimarsha. So Shiva is said to be prakasha, white in color. Devi is the vimarsha, red in color. So that is why we have the Rakta Shukla Prabha Mishram, and we do namaskara to the Guru's feet. So even in that Rakta Shukla Prabha Mishram is a Sri Vidya concept, because even in that being, the one foot is red, one foot is white. Prakasha is white because it is clean, pure, unadulterated. It is just the constant glow of Chaitanya. The experience of existence is the Prakasha. And then what happened? Bahusyam prajayeti, that Prakasha, that consciousness, that conscious entity, that Chaitanya, did vimarsha of itself. The way we use vimarsha today is a criticism of something, right? So an opinion on something, an opinion piece is called a vimarsha. So what that Chaitanya did was it reflected on itself, reflected in both senses, both in the sense that of the reflection of a mirror and in the sense of reflection as in thinking. So it thought of itself, it wanted to cognize itself as a separate thing, and in doing so it reflected upon itself, and that colored it. That desire to propagate, to become many, to interact with itself, colored it. Color is called raga. Raga is red in Sanskrit. Raga also means desire. So that vimarsha, when that prakasha, when that Chaitanya reflects upon itself, it then becomes Devi. In both cases it is the same Chaitanya. But that is why Shiva is white, Devi is red. And that is why it is Ardhanarishwara, one half is white, one half is red. Champeya Gaurardha Sharirakaye, Karpura Gaurardha Sharirakaya. You can take it that way. Whether you call it golden, but in Sri Vidya she is red. She is Aruna, Karuna Tarangitakshi. She is red in color. So this is the Jnana, the Dharma Dharmi Bheda that is taught through the Upasana of Sri Vidya, and especially through the Upasana of Sundari. And we also get to kind of now transition into the names in Lalita Sahasranama. We have one more extension of this word Sundari as Tripura Sundari, and which is why we have two names. We have Mahat Tripura Sundari close to the beginning of Lalita Sahasranama, and we have Shrimat Tripura Sundari close to the end of Lalita Sahasranama. This Tripuratva is common across several devatas. So we have Tripura Bhairavi also in the Dashamahavidyas, who is said to be no different from Sundari. So if you take this Tripura Sundari, what are these three puras? Bhaskara Raya talks about the Tripuras in the beginning of his Bhashya actually. So before he even starts talking about the names, he quotes a shloka from Kalika Purana. So Devi has three bodies, her mantra has three kutas. She is Trikonantara Deepika, and in those Trikonas one is Surya, Chandra, Agni. So these Tripuras we get actually later in Lalita Sahasranama. These three puras, these three cities where she exists, where Chaitanya's locus is in the body, is Shirasthita Chandranibha, Phalasthendra Dhanufprabha, Hridayastha Raviprakhya, Trikonantara Deepika. These are actually six names. Shirasthita Chandranibha. In the Shiras, she is Chandra. Phalastha Indradhanufprabha. In the Phala, she is the Indradhanus. She is the rainbow. Hridayastha Raviprakhya. In the Manas, she is, in the Hridaya, she is Surya. So in the Shiras she is Chandra, in the Phala she is the Indradhanus, so the bow, but also Agni. In the Hridaya she is Surya. These are the three Puras. Why are these the three Puras? What is a Pura? A place of residence. A place where you live is a Pura. Why are these Devi's places of residences? As per Yoga, this is where the Jiva's locus of identity is in the three Avasthas. In the Jagrada Avastha, the Jiva is situated in the Shiras. In the Sapna Avastha, the Jiva is situated in the forehead. In the Sushupti Avastha, the Jiva is situated in the Hridaya. So these are the three Puras that Tripura Sundari lives in. The other example, the other meaning that they give in the end, so when they talk about Shrimat Tripura Sundari, is Trini Purani Brahma Vishnu Sharirani Yasya Saha Tripurah Parashivah Parashivasya Stri Tripurasya Sundari Tripura Sundari. So Tripura's Sundari, the wife, the beautiful wife of Tripura, is Tripura Sundari. Who is Tripura? One who has three Puras is Tripura. What are these three Puras? The bodies of, or the upadhis of, or the forms of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu and Rudra. One who takes these three forms, or one who has these three forms, is Tripura. So that Paramatma which does Srishti as Brahma, which does Sthiti as Vishnu, which does Laya as Shiva, is Tripura. And that is what is called in Sri Vidya Parashiva. This Parashiva is distinct from the Layakarta. This Parashiva is the Shiva that is sleeping behind Devi. That is Devi's consort. So that is Parashiva, who is the Brahman. And that Brahman's Sundari, that Brahman's Shakti, that Brahman's Chaitanya is Srimad Tripura Sundari. That is one thing. Also, in the beginning, when they are talking about Tripura Sundari, Mahabhairava Pujita, Mahayag, when there's a series of Maha names. So when you do Tripura Sundari, there they say Trayanam Matrameyanam Puranam Nagaranam. So, Trayana Matrameyanam Puram Nagaram. So there are three things that become a Pura. You have maybe heard the word Triputi before. This Triputi is nothing but the Tripura here. So Matra, Mana, Meya. Matra, the cognizer. Mana, cognizance. Meya, the object of cognizance. So these three are brought together as a Pura, as a collection of things that interact. So the person that is cognizing, the thing that is being cognized, and the cognizance that happens in the beginning. So for example, if you're looking at a banana, the person looking, the banana, and the act of looking. These are the Matra, Mana, Meya. These three attain unity when Jnana is achieved in Devi's Sayujya, in Moksha, in knowing Devi. So the Dhyana, Dhyatra, Dhyeya Rupa is also in the same vein, written in the same vein. So Dhyana, meditation, Dhyatra, the meditator, Dhyeya, the object of meditation. These three things need to converge and become one in the highest form of Dhyana, which is called Samadhi by the yogis. So this is the Tripura Sundari part of it. So as we said, this Tripura Sundari is the Parabrahma Mahishi, right? So Bhagavad Pada says in Shivananda Lahari, he says, Giram Devi Mahur Druhina Gruhini Magama Vidaha Haref Patrim Padmam Hara Sahachari Madritanayam Turiya Kapitvam Duradhigama Nisima Mahima Maha Maya Vishwam Brahmayasi Parabrahma Mahishi. So this is one of the shlokas that Bhagavad Pada gives us in Saundari Lahari. One of my favorites. Giram Devi Maho Drihana Grihini Agama Vidaha. So the Agama Vits, the people who know Mantra Shastra well, who know it to be a gateway to moksha, who know it to be an enabler for Vedanta Shastra. So those Agamavits, the people who know this Vedanta Shastra as the end goal of Agamas, of Tantra, they say that you are Druhina Grihini. You are the Grihini, you are the wife, you are the Dharma Patni of Druhina, of Brahma. And also Haref Giram, who is Giram Devi, the mother of all speech, and also Haref Patnim Padmam, as well as Vishnu's consort Lakshmi, Hara Sahacharim Adritanayam, as well as the daughter of the mountain, as well as Himavan's daughter, who is Hara Sahachari, the Sahadharmacharini of Hara, of Shiva. So they describe you as these three, but your true nature is Turiya Kapitvam. You are some fourth thing that transcends the three of these. Duradhigama Nisima Mahima. Your Mahima, your glory is Duradhigama. It is hard to ascertain, it is hard to know, it is hard to even visualize. And it is also Nisima, it knows no bounds, it is infinite. And you who are Mahamaya, Vishwam Brahmayasi, you are responsible for running this world as Parabrahma Mahishi, as Mahishi, as a queen. So Mahishi is only used for, so a king can have many wives, but Mahishi is only used for the queen that rules with him. So the queen who is, for example, so Draupadi, the Dasharatha's Mahishi would be Kausalya. So although he had 3 wives, or in Ramayana he had 350 wives, the main of whom the main 3 were Kausalya, Sumitra, Kaikeyi, the Mahishi would be Kausalya. So the Mahishi refers to the Pradhana Shakti Bhuta, one who is the main source of energy. So you, being that main energy source for Parabrahma, you cause this world to run. You cause Srishti to happen. You cause Sthiti to happen. You cause Laya to happen. And how do we see this? We have this one sequence of names in obviously in Lalita Sahasranama. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Swarupini. These are 3 things. Ichha Shakti, the power of wanting. Jnana Shakti, the power of knowing. Kriya Shakti, Swarupini, the power of doing. Why did they choose these 3 names? these three are the things that are needed for kartritva. So in Vedanta Shastra, if you read Paribhasha or any upper Vedanta Grantha, they will, when they talk about the kartritva vichara, so when we say that Ishvara is Sarvakarta or Srishtikarta, we mean that he employs Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. So Ichhavatva, Jnanavatva, Kritimatva are the three qualities that are needed to become a karta. In order to be a doer of something, in order to be a creator, you need three things. You need to want, you need to know, and you need to do. If there is no, so for example, we will look at how each of these is necessary. So let us say, actually there was one Pandita who was giving a lecture and he gave a very beautiful, a very fun explanation of it. So let us say that there is a household. In that household there is a wife, a husband and a mother. A wife, husband and mother. The wife and husband are both working. The mother is on the older side. So the Ichha Shakti is the desire, Jnana Shakti is the know-how, Kriya Shakti is doing. So these three people want coffee. They need to make coffee in the morning. Or let's say they want to make upma for lunch. Let's say coffee. They want to make coffee in the morning. They need to make it so that they will function throughout the day. They need the caffeine. So what happens then? The mother knows how to make coffee, and she also has the ability to actually do it. But today she is tired and she does not want to make it. So though jnana and kriya is there, the ichha is not there. So coffee is not made. And then you have the wife. The wife has ichha and jnana. The wife wants to make it and she also knows how to make coffee. But she has no time to make it. There is no kriya. The husband wants to make coffee and also has the time to make coffee, but he does not know how to make coffee. There is no jnana. So the husband has ichha and kriya. The husband knows how to make coffee and he is capable of putting everything together. He has the time and he is willing to put the effort. So he has ichha and kriya, but there is no jnana. He does not know how to make coffee because every day is used to, just running out of the house after drinking coffee. So the mother has jnana and kriya, but does not have ichha. The wife has ichha and jnana but does not have kriya. The husband has ichha and kriya and does not have jnana. In any case, even if one of these is lacking, kartritva does not happen. Coffee does not become created. So only one who has ichha, jnana and kriya shaktis can create anything. But what? The vishayaka. So if the desire, the knowledge and the kriya all need to be directed towards the thing that you wish to create. For example, if they want to make coffee, right? Let's say the husband, right? We said that he wants to make coffee and he can make coffee as well. But he does not have jnana. If he has jnana towards making upma, it is useless towards making coffee. The jnana needs to be coffee jnana to make coffee. So when we take Ishvara, if we are saying he is Srishtikarta, he needs to have Srishti Vishayaka Ichha, Srishti Vishayaka Jnana, Srishti Vishayaka Kriya. So he needs to have desire directed towards creating the world. He needs to have knowledge of what the world entails, and he needs to put his efforts towards making the world, not something else. And this is why, as I think we talked about this last time too, right? We have the word Yas Sarvajnah, Sarvavit, Yasya Jnanamayantapaha. So Veda uses two words to talk about Ishvara. Sarvajnah and Sarvavit. Sarvajna is one who knows everything generally. Sarvavit means one who knows each and every individual thing in that. So if I see a group of 5 people, there are 5 people there, is knowing is Sarvajna. I know that there are 5 people there. I know everything that there is to know there. Sarvavit means knowing who each of those individuals are. Knowing each one of those individuals is Sarvavit. Because Ishvara has to create this entire world, he needs to have that Sarvajnatva as well as Sarvavitva. He needs to know everything in the general sense, as well as knowing everything in the pratyeka sense, in the what do you call, the specific sense as well. So this is the Srishtikartratva. How do we know that Devi does Laya? Which names point to Devi being the Layakartri in Lalita Sahasranama? Maheshwara, Mahakalpa, Mahatandava Sakshini. Very beautiful name. So in the Mahakalpa, so at the end of the Mahapralaya, Maha Ishvara is doing Mahatandava. Why these 3 Mahas? So although time goes on and there are several cyclical cycles in time, the end of which dissolution happens and the beginning of which Srishti happens, this is Mahakalpa. So dissolution is happening on the massive scale, on a large scale. And who is doing this? Not just an Ishvara, but a Maheshwara, the most capable person. So the most capable person is doing a very large scale pralaya, and it is Mahatandava, it is a very vigorous, violent laya that is happening. But Devi is not affected by that. She is the Sakshini. She is watching all of it happily. It is actually again in Saundarila Hari, Virinchif Panchatvam Vradati, Hari Rapnoti Viratim, Vinasham Keenasho Bhajati, Dhanadoyati Nidhanam, Vidandri Mahendri Vitatirapi Sammiliti Drisha, Mahasamhare Esmin, Viharati Sati, Tat Patiraso. Bhagavatpada says with Devi, in this pralaya, Mahasamhara, see there also he uses Mahasamhara. So in that Mahapralaya, when everything is being dissolved, everything is going, so just as Srishti, one entity became many, in Pralaya those many entities, they get Samhara. Samhara means to become folded back in, to become gathered at one place. So this multitude of things becomes pushed back into one entity. So that is the Mahasamhara that is happening. During that, what happens? Virinchif Panchatvam Vrajati. Brahma becomes dissolved into the Panchabhutas. Hari Rapnoti Viratim. Vishnu is permanently retired. He no longer can do anything. Vinasham Keenasho Bhajati. Keenasha is Yama. Yama himself attains Vinasha. Dhanadoyati Nidhanam. Kubera, who is giving out Sampada, he himself attains Nidhana. He himself perishes. Vitandri, Mahendri, Vitatirapi. However many Indras there are, they all become unconscious. They all pass away. Vitandri, Mahendri, Vitatarapi. So although all these devatas are going away, Mahasamharesmin viharati sati tvat pati raso. Sati, O Devi, tvat patihi, your husband, aso, your husband, viharati, he plays Tandava, he dances, he plays happily. And what is the word that Bhagavatpada used for Devi here? Sati. Sati is not just wife, but it is the ktinnanta of asdhatu. So sat means something that exists. Sati is something female that exists. So you, Devi, as the Sat Padartha, as the Jnana Shakti of that Sat Padartha, you exist with your husband. Your husband is Sat, you are Sati. So because your existence, you are not an object in this world that would be dissolved. You, as the being that is Sat Chit Ananda, as the being that is existence, consciousness, Ananda, you exist with your husband even throughout the process of Pralaya because you are Sati. These are the words that these acharyas use. Every single word will be measured out and placed for optimal effect. It is our duty to learn and understand which meaning we are supposed to be taking from that. So viharati sati tat pati rasau. So Devi, although all this is happening, these people are all going away, you are watching with your husband and he is dancing happily, he is playing. And there is also another shloka from Devi Bhagavata, Esha Samhritya Sakalam Vishwam Kridati Sankshaye. Esha Samhritya Sakalam Vishwam Kridati Sankshaye. Linga Esha Samhritya Sakalam Vishwam Kridati Sankshaye. Lingani Sarvabhutanam Sasharire Niveshyacha. This is what Lingani Sarvabhutanam Sasharire Niveshyacha. Esha Samhritya Sakalam Vishwam Kridati Sankshaye. Lingani Sarvabhutanam Sasharire Niveshyacha. So Bhaskaraya references this when he does Vyakhya of this name. So in Devi Bhagavata there is one shloka, Esha, this Devi, Sakalam Samhritya, having gathered everything, having dissolved everything into one package, Kridati Sankshaye, she plays. But when she dissolves, she does not just destroy everything. Remember, it is not destruction. Shiva is not the god of destruction. He is the god of dissolution. So how did we get salt in the Satyagraha when Gandhiji did the Satyagraha? He went to the water, he went to the ocean and he evaporated. The salt became left. How do you get it back to its original state? You dissolve it in water. It goes back to its unmanifest state. that is samhara, that is pralaya. It is not destruction. We need to make sure that we are conscious of this fact when we characterize Hinduism in public circles, because it is very easy to say creation, sustenance, destruction. It is not destruction. When we say create, we mean something went from an unmanifest state to an unmanifest state, because the word create means or implies that something existed which did not exist before, and that is impossible for us. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Nothing that does not exist can exist. Nothing that is existent will ever not exist. So everything that is what will be. Anything that is not will never be. That is the Siddhanta. So when we say Srishti, we took it from Avyakta to Vyakta state is what we mean. In the same way, when we say Pralaya, you cannot destroy something that exists. It dissolves. It goes back to the Avyakta state. It goes from Vyakta to Avyakta state. So that is the samhara that is happening. So Devi does that to this world. Esha samhritya sakhalam vishram kriyadati sankshaye. But what does she do? Because it is a dissolution, the potential exists for creation from that again. Just as the tree produces a seed before decaying, and from that seed, in that seed exists the potential for another tree, the Devi holds the lingas of the bhutas. Because this is also how we get the anadi parishkara. So she holds the linga shariras of all jivas. So the linga shariras are what contain the karma records of every jiva. So at every pralaya, the karma balance of jivas does not balance out. Because if karma balances out, if all karma anubhava happens by the time of pralaya, all jivas will get moksha and will not be born again. So what remains is there is a karma balance left over. Because we are born now with some karma. So though we have not done any karma in this birth, we are born with some packet of karma that comes with the body. So therefore there is some karma that was existed in the previous birth. And what is the nimitta for birth? What is the reason for taking birth? The experience of karma. So if we took a previous birth to do that karma that we have to experience in this body, we had to have taken birth then. Meaning we had to have taken a birth even before that. So to do karma, you need to be born. To be born, you need to have karma. So this cycle just keeps going back and back and back. And it is an infinite regress. There is no first janma where you had a zero karma balance, because then you would not have been born. Without being born, you cannot do karma. And if we are born right now, it means we had karma. If we had karma, it means we did it in a previous birth. In this way, the loop keeps going back infinitely. So what we need to understand is the first janma that we had in the Srishti cycle came from the previous pralaya. So whatever karma balance we had in the last cycle, Bhagavan has recreated the world from that, and the jivas are set back into play with that karma balance left over. So that's why lingani sarva jivanam sa sharire niveshyacha. Devi puts those linga shariras that contain those karmic debts, those karmic balances of all jivas into her sharira. Into her sharira means what? She sits there on a throne, as we see with the sugarcane bow and the arrows. Her sharira then becomes the karana sharira. So she puts it into the karana sharira, making it the samashti, and from those samashtis, the vyashtis are all again redistributed at the time of Srishti again. So this meaning is contained between Maheshwara Mahakalpa Mahatandava Sakshini. We can visualize it as Shiva dancing and Devi watching him. But what Tantra and this Upasana Krama means to convey to us is this. So this Devi transcends time. She is the Shakti of Parameshwara, of Paramatma, who is the Srishti Sthitilaya Karta. So this comes, and then, so there are such names in Lalita Sahasranama, and then there are also names which directly correspond to some phrases in Upanishad. For example, you have the name Vajrani, Vamakeshwari, Vajrani. Vajrani means what? There are two meanings given here. One, Vajran is Indra. One who has Vajra is Vajran. And Indra's Shakti, Indrani is Vajrani. So in Saptashati, as Devi fights Shumbha and Nishumbha, she takes the Saptamatrikas. So among those are Vaishnavi, Brahmi, Kaumari, Maheshwari, and Indrani is also there. So Shachi, the Shakti of Indra is there. So Indrani, Indra Shakti, Vajrani, same thing. So we can take it to be Indra Shakti. But here Bhaskara Raya writes one more meaning. So Vajrani means one who is the Shakti of Vajra, or one who has a Vajra. Kathopanishad describes Brahman Mahadbhayam Vajra Mudyatam ya etad vidur amrutaste bhavanti. So that Brahman is Mahadbhayam, it is terrifying, it is fearsome, it is terrific. And Vajra Mudyatam, it bears the Vajra as its weapon. Ya etad viduhu, those who know that, amrutaste bhavanti, they attain immortality, they attain moksha, they attain Brahmanhood. So if you look at that mantra from Kathopanishad, Mahadbhayam, it is fearsome. What do we mean by Brahman being fearsome? There is a link back to Taittiriya. Bhishasmadvatah pavate bhishodeti surya bhishasmad agnischendrascha mrityurdhavati panchamaiti. This is the more commonly quoted word whenever we describe any devata as Ugra. When we say Kali is fearsome, when we say Narasimha is Ugra or Bhishana, when we say that, Rudra is Bhayankara, whenever we say any devata is fearsome or terrific or terrible or terrifying, this is what we mean. It is this bhaya that is ascribed to Brahman, not just, Narasimha has nails and claws, or Kali has a tongue coming out, or Rudra has a trishula. It is not this ugratva that is meant to be understood. That is just because this exists in the Brahma Padartha, when the Brahma Padartha takes a form, that is manifest in this form. So that ugratva that is, or this mahadbhayatva that is existent in Brahman is portrayed as the gaping mouth of Kali, as the nails of Narasimha, as the trishula of Rudra, as the fire of the third eye of Parameshwara. So these are all depictions of that. But why is Brahman called this? Out of fear of Brahman, the sun rises. Out of fear of Brahman, Vatah pavate bhishodeti surya. Out of fear of Brahman, the sun rises. Bhishasmad agnischendrascha. Out of fear of that Brahman, fire burns and Indra reigns. Mrityurdhavati panchamaiti. Even Mrityu only kills because it is scared of Brahman. Scared of Brahman means what? What is anyone scared of? If you do a work because you are scared, what is it that you fear? You fear the yajamani. You fear the person. You fear the anger of the person that tells you to do these things. You fear the anger of the person who has done the niyamana of you. You fear the person who has forced you into these acts, who has designated you to do these acts, who has told you to do these acts. So when we say that Surya rises out of fear of Brahman, wind blows out of fear of Brahman, we mean that these are all subservient beings to a larger Chaitanya. These things are all working based on the grand master plan. These things are all working based on the macrocosm, based on the dharma of the macrocosm, the way that the homeostasis that this thing is supposed to run in. And Mahadbhayam and Vajra Mudyatam. So then why did they describe Brahman as holding a Vajra? The Vajra is an indestructible weapon, infallible weapon, uncounterable weapon. So he holds infinite power. That is what that is a sign of. Mahadbhayam signifies the fact that all beings work as per his Agnya, as per its plan. And Vajra Mudyatam means it also provides the Shakti that is necessary. It has the power necessary to run this world, to put everything in its place. The same Vajra is used, is also used to mean, Vajrani is also, this Vajra Shabda is also used to mean indivisible. That which divides all but yet is indivisible. Because Vajra is a diamond, as per the Ratna Shastra. Vajra is what we used to call diamonds. Diamonds are used to drill holes in everything else, but nothing can drill a hole in the diamond. It is the hardest substance possible. So that which divides all else, but it itself is indivisible, is referred to as Vajra. One that has that nature is Vajrini. So in this way, this Vajrini name corresponds to Mahadbhayam Vajra Mudyatam in Upanishad. So there are some names which are specified towards certain Upanishadic concepts. So thus far, we have looked at how Lalita Sahasranama corresponds to Vedanta through the Upanishads. We can also do a study of how this Brahmavidya approached through yoga is found in Sri Vidya, because both paths exist. So there is also there is Jnana Yoga, there is Hatha Yoga, there is Kundalini Yoga. So all of these exist. So the very common sequence of names: Mooladhareka Nilaya Brahma Grandhi Vibhedini, Manipurantharudita Vishnu Grandhi Vibhedini, Agnya Chakra Antaralastha Rudra Grandhi Vibhedini, Sahasranama Rudha Sudhasara Abhivarshani, Tatillata Samaraja Shatchakropari Samstita, Mahasakti Kundalini Bisutantu Taniyasi. So this sequence of names is just a massive summary of the Kundalini Yoga. So if we take, as you all know, I'm sure we talked about this last time, but there are 6 chakras: Mooladhara, Manipura, Agnya, Sahasrara. Of the 6 chakras, these are 4. The Mooladhara is at the bottom, the base. So that is where the Kundalini starts. The Brahma Granthi is present in the Mooladhara. The Vishnu Granthi is present in the Manipura. The Rudra Granthi is present in the Agnya Chakra. These Granthis are knots. So as the Kundalini Shakti, we will talk about why the Kundalini is called that in a second. But as the Kundalini Shakti, which is depicted as a snake, as it uncoils from the Mooladhara and starts making its way up the Sushumna Nadi, up to the Sahasrara, it passes through, you can think of it as passing through a tube that is knotted up. Right? So if you are using a hose or something like that, if there is a knot in the hose, the water does not flow through. So only when that knot is overcome can the water flow through it. So in the same way, there are certain yogic obstacles that are placed at points through the Sushumna path, and the Granthi actually means a knot. So the hose example here works. There are several knots. There are actually many. There are 2 or 3 in the Mooladhara. There's another 2 or 3 in the Manipura. But this Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra Granthis are specific Granthis. They're like big benchmarks that the yogi has to cross. So one who crosses all of those, and then Sahasrarambuja Rudha, at the end of the day, where do you go? This Kundalini goes up to the Sahasrara. So the 1,000 petaled lotus in the Shiras. And what does it go when it goes there? Sudhasarabhivarshini. From there, Amrita rains from there. So once the Kundalini has reached the Sahasrara, Amrita rains from there. And again, Bhagavad Pada tells this in Shivananda Saundari Lahari. Mahim Mooladhare Kamapi Manipure Hutavaham Sthitam Swadhishthane Hridi Marutam Akashamapari Manopi Bhrumadhye Sakalamapi Bhitva Kulapatham Sahasrare Padme Saharahase Patya Viharase. So Bhitva Kulapatham. This Kula refers to the Sri Vidya Sampradaya, the Sri Vidya tradition. It also refers to the sequence that the yogi follows in doing this sadhana, in doing Kundalini Yoga. So Kulapatham Bhitva, having done Bhedana, having broken through the Kulapatha. How? Mahim Mooladhare, having broken through the Mooladhara, which is of the nature of Prithivi. Kamapi Manipure, breaking through the Manipura Chakra, which is Jalatattva Pradhana. Hutavaham Sthitam Swadhishthane, breaking through the Swadhishthana Chakra, which is of the nature of Agni. Sthitam Swadhishthane Hridi Marutam, breaking through the chakra at the Hridaya, which has Marut, Agni, or Vayu as its Tattva. Akashamapari, breaking through the chakra in the Kantha, which has Akasha as its Tattva. And then Manopi Bhrumadhye, breaking through the Agnya Chakra, which has the Manas as its Tattva. And then Sakal, so breaking through all of this, having broken through here, you reach the Sahasrara Padma, where Saharahase Patya Viharase, where you are united with Parameshwara, who is in the Sahasrara Chakra. This is the sequence that is designated. And what is the last chakra that they broke through? Manopi Bhrumadhye. The last chakra to be broken through is the Agnya Chakra between the eyebrows. So that's Sthana. Because that is the last place where the Kundalini needs to break through to reach the Sahasrara, that is where we put Buttu every day. That is why we consider that Sthana to be Devi's Nivasa, Devi's Nilaya. And every day as we put on Kumkuma there, regardless of whichever part of society we're born in, whichever gender we are, wherever we're living, whatever we're doing, whatever varnashramas are, regardless whoever it is, every single Sanatana Dharmi, every single Hindu must put a Buttu here, because that is the last point, that is the last Granthi, that is the last obstacle to be conquered before Devi unites with Ishvara in the Sahasrara Chakra. And whenever we see Devata sitting in lotuses, that is the Sahasrara, Sahasra, 1,000 Ara Chakra. So this actually comes in Vidyaranya Swami's Bhashya of the Nrisimhatapani Upanishad. As he talks about the Narasimha Yantra, there are several chakras that are present in. So just as the Devi's Chakra, just as Shri Chakra has Navavaranas, there are also the Narasimha Yantra has the Shri Yantra, just as this has Navavaranas, the Narasimha Yantra that is described in that Upanishad also has a few avaranas. It has about 5 or 6 avaranas. And then in each of those avaranas are described as chakras and padmas. And there Vidyaranya Swami writes that because why is it described as a chakra? Because a chakra has several points that are all equidistant from a center. So from that nature of things, so the outside, so a circle, a ring that has a center is a chakra. Why is it also described as a padma? Because a padma unfolds from the center. So there is a center point from which the petals bloom out. So when there is a center point that everything else blossoms from, that is depicted as a padma, which is why all these chakras are also called padmas. Sahasrara padma, Sahasrara chakra. Mooladhara padma, Mooladhara ambuja arudha. Right? Mooladhara ambuja arudha. So it is also described, Devi is also described as sitting on top of the Mooladhara ambuja, the Mooladhara padma. So depending on the way you're looking at it, these chakras, these sthanas throughout the body are described as either chakras or padmas. So that whenever we see a devata sitting in a padma, when Lakshmi Devi sits in a padma, when even Hayagriva sits in a padma, Bibhrad bhinna sphatika ruchire pundarike nishannaha. Pundarika is a shweta padma, a white padma. So when Hayagriva is sitting in that padma, he is not just sitting in a lotus because he has nowhere else to sit. He is sitting in the Sahasrara as the Ishvara, who is the Jnana Swarupa, who then gives Jnana and Sudha to the rest of the body. Same thing even in various tantras, every single devata you will see in some place or the other as sitting in a padma, regardless of who they are. Narasimha sits in a padma, Devi sits in a padma, Ganesha sits in a padma, Shiva sits in a padma. Every single devata will be sitting in a padma in some description or the other, because all these devatas are none other than the Brahman that exists in the Sahasrara as the ultimate Chaitanya Sthana. That is one thing. And Mahasakti is one of the names there. A lot of people read this as Mahashakti. It is not Mahashakti, it is Mahasakti. The Sakara in Saraswati. Mahasakti. Maha means Utsava. Maha Utsava Tejasoh is the dictionary meaning, the Vishwa Nighantu that Bhaskara Raya quotes here. So Mahas can mean either Utsava or Tejas. So either light or an Utsava. So Maha Sakti, that one who has a great Utsava is Utsava Sakti. Sakti is desire. Asakti, I'm sure you have heard that before. Asakti is what interest towards something. So Asakti, Mahasakti, one who is greatly desirous of Maha, which is an Utsava. Utsava is the yogic terminology of the union of Shiva and Shakti, right? Whenever a husband and wife come together, it is a very joyous occasion. In the same way, whenever Shakti is united with Shakta, with Parameshwara, it is always an Maha, it is an Utsava. So one who has Sakti towards that Maha, one who has Asakti towards that Maha is Mahasaktihi, which is why it comes in that yogic sequence. Mahasakti Kundalini, because she is coiled. A Kundala is a coil, which is why Kundalas are called that, right? Because they coil around the ear. And snakes are called Kundali, because they coil up, right? Kundali Shayana Brahmandanayaka Niko Dandamu Pette Nura. Tyagaraja's song, right? Kundali Shayana. Vishnumurti sleeps on a Kundali. Actually, there is even one shloka on Shiva. Vamangi krita Vamangam Kundali krita Kundalam Bhuyasyai Bhavatad Bhuti Bhutyambarambaram. I know it is a detour, but it is a beautiful shloka, so we'll talk about it quickly. Vamangi krita Vamangam. But namaskaram to him, or bhuyasyai bhavatad bhutye, may he give you all great Aishwarya. He who is Vamangi krita Vamangam. He has made a Vamangi into his Vamanga. Vama means beautiful. So a Vamangi is a beautiful lady, a lady who has beautiful limbs. Shiva made a Vamangi into his Vamanga. He made a Vamangi into his Vamanga. So he made a Vamangi, a Stri, into his left side. His Vama Anga. His left. Vama here meaning left. Anga. And Kundali Krita Kundali. He made a Kundali into his Kundala. A Kundali is a snake. So he made a snake into his Kundala. Bhuyase Bhavatad Bhuti. Bhuti. Bhuti has two meanings again. Vibhuti. So the Vibhuti that he puts on as Bhuti, as his Aishwarya. What money does Shiva have? He has no possessions except for the vibhuti on his body. Bhuti bhuti ambarambaram. Ambara also has two meanings. Ambara means both akasha as well as a vastra. So one whose vastra is akasha. So bhuyasya bhavatat bhuti bhuti bhutyambarambaram. Very nice shloka. But anyway, kundali krita kundali. One who has made a kundali, a snake. So kundali is a snake because it coils up. In the same way, kundalini, this Shakti, lies dormant, coiled up in the Mooladhara. For us, it has not even awakened. Yogis must awaken it and send it up, which is why it is kundalini. And when it travels, it needs to travel through the Sushumna Nadi, which is a very thin Nadi, which is why it is called Bisa Tantu Taniyasi. Bisa is the lotus, Tantu is the fiber. So the fiber of the lotus stalk, it is that taniyas, it is that thin. And so this is the yoga standpoint. And then there are also several names that are, we think that they are explained in a certain way, they have very obvious meaning, but a lot of these are actually references to Yoga Shastra. For example, the name Shambhavi, right? Shambhu's Stri is Shambhavi, so Shambhu's wife will be Shambhavi. But Shambhavi is also actually a mudra, and Bhaskaraya writes there, Antarlakshyam Bahirdrushtihi Nimo Antarlakshyam Bahirdrushtihi Nimeshon Meshavarjita Esha Sa Shambhavi Mudra Agamair Anugopita Esha Sa Shambhavi Mudra Sarvatantreshu Gopita. So this Shambhavi is a mudra. A mudra is not just a hand mudra. A mudra is any state of being that is recommended by yoga. What is the Shambhavi mudra? Antarlakshyam Bahirdrushtihi. Antarlakshyam Bahirdrushtihi Nimeshonmesha Varjita. So when you have your eyes open, but you are doing dhyana of something within, and Nimeshonmesha Varjita, you do not blink. So the yogic state in which you, without blinking, with your eyes open, looking out, or focusing on something inward, that yoga sthiti or that yoga mudra is called Shambhavi Mudra. And then a very common name that we'll talk about before I start wrapping up for today is Manon Mani. A lot of people pronounce this as Manon Mani. It is not Manon Mani. It is not a mani like Marakata or Indranila or something, or Garuda or something like that. It is Manon Mani. And first of all, the Vedanta Artha is there. So the one that Bhaskararaya gives is Manamsi Unmanyante Utkrishta Jnanavanti Manamsi Unmanyante Utkrishta Jnana Yuktani Kurute Itiva. So he says that which makes Manas Unmana, that which takes the Manas, the mind, and makes it into a loftier state. Man dhatu means to think over, right? Manana, to think over. So one that takes the manas and makes it utkrishta jnana yukta and gives it great jnana is manon mani. So one who gives great jnana is manon mani. There is also another meaning that Bhaskararaya gives is the Shakti of manon mana is manon mani. Where do you get manon mana? Vamadeva yanamo jyeshtha yanama shrestha yanamo rudra yanamah kala yanamah kalavikarana yanamo Malavikarana yanamo bala yanamo bala pramathana yanamah sarvabhuta damana yanamo. The last name here is Manon Mana yanamaha. So Manon Mana is a particular form of Shiva in Tantra. These Vamadeva, Jyeshtha, these are not just random adjectives for Shiva. They can be understood that way. But these are also specific forms of Shiva in Tantra. And the Manas, Manon Mana is Ishvara. Manon Mana's Stri will be Manon Mani. And the meaning, he doesn't define Manon Mana here. And neither, so I went to the Bhatta Bhaskara Bhashya of Veda, and in the Bhatta Bhaskara Bhashya in Veda, when he describes this mantra in Mahanarayana Upanishad, he gave another very beautiful meaning. So the Manta is the Jiva. Manta means Manana Karta, one who does Manana. So one who thinks is the Jiva. And Manaha Tasya Unmanyate Udbodhakaha Chaitanyoddeepakaha Bhavati iti. So if the jiva is manta, one who does unmanta, one who does udbodhana, unmanana of his manas is manon mana. So one who awakens him, one who makes him aware of these things. Chaitanyoddeepakaha, one who makes Chaitanya glow within the jiva's manas is manon mana, and that deva's Stri is manon mani. So this is the normal Vedanta Artha. But if you look at the Yoga Artha, manon mani is a mudra. So Netre Yayonmesha Nimesha Mukte नेत्रेयोन्मेष निमेष मुक्ते वायुर्यया वर्जितरे च पूरः नेत्रेयोन्मेष निमेष मुक्ते वायुर्यया वर्जितरे च पूरः मनश्च संकल्प विकल्प शून्यं सा मे मनोन्मनी मे हृदि सन्निधत्ताम् नेत्रेयोन्मेष निमेष मुक्ते वायुर्यया रे च वायुर्यया पूरणरे च मुक्ता वायुर्यया वर्जितरे च पूरः मनश्च संकल्प विकल्प शून्यं मनोन्मनी सा मयि सन्निधत्ताम् is the shloka from Yoga Shastra. So may that Manonmani Mudra be in my heart. What is this Manonmani Sthiti like? So we saw what Shambhavi Mudra was like. So the eyes are open, Antarmukha Drishti, and no blinking. So this Manonmani Mudra is the state in which Netreyaya Unmesha Nimesha Mukte. The eyes should be devoid of closing or opening. Eyes should not blink. Vayuryaya Varjita Recha Puraha. Rechaka and Puraka should not happen for Vayu. So the Vayu should not go in or come out. You should not be breathing in or out. You should not be blinking. Manascha Sankalpa Vikalpa Shunyam. The mind should not want or not want to do anything. The mind should not have any thoughts. So when the eyes do not blink, so it's actually, if you look at the combination of these, the eyes do not open or close. Air does not go in or out. The mind does not want or not want. So that state is called Manonmani. So this is the Yoga Sanketa. So in this way, these all are yogic practices, again intended to lead to Samadhi, which leads to Moksha. So as we have seen through the last two sessions, Devi Upasana, this Lalita Devi, this Tripura Sundari, is none other than the Brahman that is taught by, as we said, let's come full circle to the shloka I talked about in the beginning of Apaya Dikshita. Yadyapyadvaita eva shriti shikhara giram sagamanancha nishtha sakam sarvaih puranehi shriti nigama smriti nikara mahabharatadi prabandhaihi tatreva brahmasutranyapich vimrishatam. This is Advaita is the Tatparya. Advaita is the intent. Advaita is the final goal of what? Shriti Shikhara Giram, of the Upanishads. Sagamanam, of all tantras. Sakam Sarvev Purani, of all Purana. Tadanuguna, the Mahabharatadi Prabandhi, of all Mahabharatas, Itihasas, Kavyas. Tatreva Brahmasutranyapich Vimrishatam, of all people who do study of the Brahmasutras. All these lead to Advaita Jnana alone. And Devi Upasana, Devata Upasana of Saguna Ishvara is a wonderful way to make great strides along the way to Vedanta sadhana if we do it right. So you need to treat this Upasana as Brahmavidya. You need to treat this Devi as Brahman. You need to treat the sadhana that you do every day as Brahmavidya sadhana, as Adhyatma sadhana, as Vedanta sadhana. And then this becomes completely fruitful. You will get everything. Iha para bhogas. Ekam, actually there is one shloka even where they say specifically that this Shri Vidya gives both bhukti mukti phalapradam. This is one of the very few tantras which is expanded enough, in which it shows both how Devi as a Devata can give us happiness, material comforts, as well as Brahman give us moksha. And there are very few types of tantras that have had as much literature trying to expound this and teach this as Shri Vidya has had. And of course, as we do namaskara to Devi as the Brahman that as a Brahman that gives us this jnana and this moksha, we also must do namaskaram to her as the Guru that teaches us all of this, as Guru Mandala Rupini, as Guru Murti. And several beautiful names in Lalita Sahasranama are meant to show Devi as the Guru. For example, in the whole Nir sequence that we talked about, we have Nirlobha, that without Lobha. It is very easy to say that Devi does not have Lobha, but Bhaskara Raya specifically says in the Bhasha, he quotes a shloka from Tantra that says what the qualities of a Guru is supposed to be. Asamshayas samshayachita nirapeksho gurur mataha. Who is a Guru? Asamshayaha. He himself should have no more doubts about Brahman. So he should have experienced it. He should know everything and have no doubts about it. But what use is the Guru to the student if he cannot teach it? So he should also be samshayachita. He should also be able to adequately remove samshayas, adequately remove doubts. Third one, nirapekshaha. He should not be wanting anything from the student. The Guru should teach for the sake of propagating knowledge, out of karuna. The student should learn out of bhakti to the guru, out of bhakti to the vidya, and then should give the guru a guru dakshina. The guru should not teach for money. Teaching vidya for money is a surefire way to make sure that the education system is terrible. If you are paying money for an education, you can almost be, it is a surefire sign that the educational system is not working optimally, because you are not learning for the sake of learning and the teacher is not teaching for the sake of learning. So nirapeksho gurur mataha. He takes this word nirapeksha. So see, the guru should not want anything. The guru is nirlobha. Devi is the guru who is nirlobha. That is how Bhaskara Raya shows it. And in the same way, what does a guru do? He instills good qualities in us and removes the bad. Niraga, Devi does not have raga. Raga Madhani, she removes raga. Nirmada, she does not have mada. Madanashini, she removes mada. Nirmama, she does not have mamakara. Mamatahantri, she removes mamakara. Nishpapa, she does not have papa. Papa Nashini, she removes papas. Nissamshaya, she does not have samshayas. Samshayagni, she removes samshayas. Nirmoha, she does not have moha. Moha Nashini, she does not have moha. And even some things where Bhaskara Raya as a guru tells us something. So Nishkrodha Krodha Shamani. Here he gives a very beautiful thing about how Devi as the guru looks out for us. So Nishkrodha, Devi does not have Krodha. Krodha Shamani, she removes Krodha in us. So this is what a guru does. But why does a guru remove Krodha from us? Or why does Devi remove Krodha from us? He quotes a shloka from Apastamba Sutras. He quotes a shloka from Apastamba Sutras that says, Krodha yukto yad yajati, yad juhoti, yad archati. Krodha yukto yad yajati, yad juhoti, yad archati. Satasya harate sarvam amakumbha ivodakam. Satasya harate sarvam amakumbha ivodakam. Krodha yukto yad yajati, yad juhoti, yad archati. Satasya harate sarvam amakumbha ivodakam. So one krodha yuktaha, one who has anger in him, yad yajati, whatever yagas he does, yad juhoti, whatever homa he does, yad archati, whatever archana he does, that all will remove, he loses the phalita of all of that, just as an unbaked clay pot will lose water. If the mud is still wet, if the pot is still wet with mud, if the pot has not been baked yet and you have watered it, the water will just flow out of the pot. In the same way, whatever yagas, whatever homas, whatever archanas, whatever japas, whatever nishthas, whatever pujas we are doing will only have fruit if our manas does not have the dosha of krodha, of kama, of all of these. So Devi is the guru who so compassionately removes all of that, and who so compassionately teaches us about Brahmavidya, who so compassionately gives us the mantra, who so compassionately gives us diksha and enables us to learn all of this. So with namaskarams to that Devi, and with namaskarams to my gurus, the Jagat Gurus, who are the embodiment of this Devi, of this Brahman, and with namaskarams to all of you, we will stop here. Bhumau skhalitapadanam bhumirevavalambanam tvaijaataparadhanam tamev sharanam shive यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं चेद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देवी नारायणि नमोऽस्तुते. नमस्कार.